Hey everyone, welcome back to the Open Tools podcast. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, David Rogier, CEO of MasterClass. Today we're diving into their new AI training course, MasterClass Executive. David, really appreciate you coming on.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Well, David, I really just wanted to jump straight into what you've been building recently with MasterClass Executive. Feels like this isn't just a new program, it's a response to something much bigger happening in the AI space. So I'd love for you just to break that down for us. What is MasterClass Executive and what pushed you in this direction?
When you think about ourselves and when you think about your friends and the people that you work with, I think you'll see that most of us have some part of like fear that's creeping in more and more. I think there's uncertainty in the world on the political side and the economic side. I think careers and jobs, we're all rethinking, is our careers going to still be there in 5 to 10 years? For the first time in our lives, we might be way behind on skills. But even more important than that, I think the path that we were taught is the key to success is eroding in front of our very eyes. I mean, it used to be I work hard in school, I get an internship, maybe I travel if I can afford to, I get entry level job and I build my way up that career. Maybe I switch a couple times, but if you do that path, you're going to be able to be a executive and earn a nice income and afford a nice house. And that is no longer true. The rules are being rewritten in front of our eyes. And some of them we know, and some of them we do not know yet. What we try to do was build the first AI native business program that taught you not only the generalized skills that I think you need more of, but also the AI skills that you need, not just from the tactic side, but integrated into everything that you would do. And how we did this was we teamed up with OpenAI and the University of Chicago booth, and I think this is the first type of program of its kind.
It's amazing. And David, as you mentioned, I feel like AI isn't just something that people use anymore. It's starting to shape how people think, how they work, and how they make decisions, both professionally and personally. From your perspective, what has really changed at the executive level over the last year or so?
Oh, I think it's been transformational. I think uh, three big things I think have changed at the exec level for executives. Number one is just the speed of change and adaptation is exponentially faster. Now, why that's such a big thing is most companies and organizations are designed to go slow, are designed to get approvals from a bunch of folks. You have to include your big change in the planning process. Everybody's going to give you notes and thoughts on it. But if you stick to that and how you design a product or how you build a strategy, you are going to be a dinosaur. So I think one is simply speed, and the organization and process haven't adapted for that. That's number one. Number two is I call it the barbell effect, which is basically if you're a specialist. So let's say, hey, I'm an executive, that really focuses on engineering. Well, if you're just an okay specialist, you are in real trouble because a generalist or an entry level person using AI can do as good of a job right now as a good specialist. So the only choices you have is either to become a specialist executive that is simply world class at that trait that you have, world class, I mean top 1%, or number two, you are a generalist and can increase the breadth of your job and can have input and help direct things across the org. So if you're an executive, that means one, your team might not be right anymore. Number two, it might mean that you yourself and your skill set isn't valued as much anymore, and you either need to expand it and become more than just an engineering executive, but able to do things on the design and the product side as well. Or three, it might be that your lack of knowledge, understanding about the skills and the tools are going to put you so far behind that somebody else can actually outpace you.
It's true. I think the one thing that we see on our newsletter side is that a lot of executives know that AI matters right now, but they don't actually know how to apply it in a meaningful
Yes.
way yet. They're
Yes.
experimenting, delegating it, but not really owning it. Are you seeing that same gap?
100%. And those people are being left behind. I think as an executive, you have to be deep into the tools right now. And so what that means, you gotta obviously be using it LLM every day. You have to be making apps in either Lovable or in Claude Code. Have to be making custom GPTs. You have to be doing deep research. I think now that's like the baseline. And if you aren't doing anything as that as an executive, I think you're gonna be left behind. The other thing I think you gotta do as an executive is you gotta push yourself and your team. I don't think this is from the ground up. This has to be from the top down. I think you pick one of the processes that you have on your team that takes up a lot of time and a lot of effort and say, hey, we're going to figure out how to use AI to redo this entire process. But don't make it just about cost cutting. Make it to say, hey, it's either got to take us half the time or the quality's got to be go up by 50%. So you're using AI, I would pick the goal today, pick one process, tell your team and like set that as the bar and the expectation is done within like a month or two. That's going to push you, it's going to push your team. And then that you're going to start to cover, oh my God, I could do tons of other things as well.
So true. I think that we're getting to the point where if you're leading a company and you don't understand AI and you're not really using it to its maximum, you're at a real disadvantage. What
Oh,
disadvantages do you think there are for those s- executives?
okay. I mean, one's the obvious that you're behind on things happening in the world. But two, you're the role model for your team. So if you aren't using AI on a personal level, you're basically saying, hey, I'm okay not being as effective as I can be. So let's say right now for an executive, using AI can make you personally at least 20% more productive, at least 20%. If you aren't using it, you're basically telling your team, hey, I'm okay that I'm at 80%, which sends a signal to them that you're okay if they're at 80%. So now if you're not using AI executive, you're lowering the bar of your team is number two. And then number three is you are just going to be crushed by another person who's going to take your job who decided to invest in AI skills.
It's a great answer. And that's exactly my next question. On the other side of that, what are high performing executives who do understand this doing differently right now?
They're acting like part ICs, like individual contributors. The best execs now are saying, hey, I'm building tools on my own productivity. So what I mean by this is everything from things my team asks me for a lot. I'm going to build a custom GPT that gives them the notes and feedbacks. For any new employee, I'm not just going to like onboard them with talking to them. I'm going to onboard them with different custom GPTs, with different agents, with skill docs, right, and skill files, right? So like I'm actually like going to make it part of my onboarding experience. Another thing they're doing is a lot of them are doing some version of an AI chief of staff that's reading their emails and Slacks, drafting their responses, prioritizing different things. Another thing they're doing, they're using AI to make their teams much more effective. That's going to be, from cutting on the processes or inventing new processes and able to do things that they weren't able to do before. I'll give you an example. Um, our marketing team and the executives in the team pushed a new system where we use AI to evaluate ad creative before it goes out there so that the creative team can tell if this ad's going to do well or not. Well, what does that do? All of a sudden, the marketing team's output is much higher because the creatives are only working on things that are actually have a higher probability to work, right? They also don't have to wait to get notes from somebody else because AI is providing the notes. So all of a sudden, the marketing team is much more effective than it was in the past. And then I think the last thing, this is on the IC side, I mean, they're building their own, the executives are driving and pushing the change because they get frustrated that things are slow. So they're creating their own dashboards, their own agents, their own process, which then inspires the team to actually do it. I
That's
think it's
great.
one
I've
of
had
the
the
best times to be an executive. I also think it's one of the times where to be a lazy executive is impossible. And you basically got to decide, am I in this or not?
Perfect. That's a great answer. I've had the pleasure of meeting your marketing team, and I do know they're extremely effective. So,
Okay,
case in
good.
point.
Phew, phew, phew. I think so too. I think so too.
So, David, when you were building MasterClass Executive, this program, What was the idea to close that gap that you're seeing and help people actually become the best and the top kind of operator right now? Why is it so
Yeah.
important?
It's so important because if people don't adapt, the alternative is really bad. If you look at the stats and past technological shifts, displacements, if you are laid off because of that, your lifetime income drops by 20%. It's a 20% drop in income, and your mortality rate that next year doubles. Let me say this another way. If you get laid off or displaced because of AI, if it's anything like the past, you're going to earn substantially less your entire career, and you have a higher chance of dying. Like, that's the stakes. Like, it's substantial. So you have to figure out how not to let that occur to you. This is for yourself and for everybody that depends and counts on you. So we said, hey, if we're going to retrain people, how are you going to do it? Number one, you got to do it based on skills that they need today. So what does that mean? We went and talked to employers, CEOs, hiring managers, academics, professors, and employees, said, what are the skill sets that you need today? And the result was, it was really interesting. It was a couple. One was a more generalist point of view that, like, an engineering manager can't no longer just do engineering. They have to know more things, like on product and marketing. So one is everybody has to know more. That was number one. Number two is you don't actually have to be technically good at those things, except you have to understand them and be able to do it in AI. So example, if I'm an engineering manager, I don't have to make an amortization accounting plan and schedule, but I have to know what that is and be able to put it into AI and analyze and understand it. Second thing we found that we decided to do was saying, hey, it's got to be taught by a mix of people who are defining and creating what these new rules in business are, combined with people who have seen like 10,000 reps. So we have everybody from the CEO of 11 Labs who's going to teach. The folks at Lovable are going to teach. OpenAI is going to teach. But on top of that, it's also you're having professors have won a Nobel Prize in economics about what happens in a crisis or what happens with trade. It's combining it with entrepreneurs like Mark Cuban and Gary Vee. So it's a total mix of different folks, both who are defining the cutting edge and have helped almost create the infrastructure that we have now. And then the third part is if it's going to be a native AI business education, it's got to be in part taught by AI. And what we found is if you do that right, you learn things much faster. So we worked really hard with academic advisors at Harvard and Penn, building off some of the work of the World Bank, and created a way to learn that combines labs, so like AI practical labs, with things you watch on video, combined with Zooms, and combined with AI prompting you and pushing you to make sure you really understand it, to make it apply to your life. And when we do that, you can learn the same amount of things but 60% faster than being in a classroom. So that means you're almost learning 3x faster. So if you do us for 3 months, it's basically equivalent of doing an academic year. And so those are the three big ways how MasterClass Executive is very different than I think almost any other business education out there.
Extremely. And I also loved your earlier statistic. This literally is, in some ways, with the state of the job market, with everything, life or death. So if I'm listening right now as a founder, operator, executive, what actually changes for me going through this program? What can I expect from the learning process?
I'm going through it now, so I think it's had, and I can say like it's transformative effect. I think you learn about you're going to leave this program with a stamp of approval from Chicago Booth and MasterClass, which is, and it's an exclusive program. It's hard to get into. So one is a stamp. Two is employers from Bain to Lovable are recruiting out of this program. So if you're looking for that, you have prestigious firms that want you. But I think more than that, you're going to be ahead of all your peers because you're going to have a breadth of knowledge that's more vast than them, but also you're going to have an applied way of doing it with AI. I mean, how many of your peers are taking classes from the leading AI companies and workshops and the chief strategy officer at Walt Disney? And like, who's doing that in 12 weeks? And it's basically, almost like a year in school. Like, you're just going to be ahead of everybody else.
It's amazing. I'm sure you deal with executives every single day. So, who do you think this is really built for? What type of executive would get the most value out of this course?
One that realizes the only way for them to stay on top is to continually learn, and one who wants to stay on top and keep climbing.
Okay.
If you wanna just coast, this is not the program for you.
Okay. And I feel like you have some personal experience from this since you're going through it right now. But the
Oh, yeah.
pace of this shift feels pretty aggressive. What do you think happens if someone just waits a year to really get up to speed on AI? Or where do you think the everyday executive will be in a year from now if they aren't caught up using AI?
I mean, a lot won't have their current job. Um, so if they don't do it, let's start with the bad case. They're gonna be out of a job. They're gonna try to get a similar job at a company that's further behind. They're gonna probably take a pay cut, and at some point, they hopefully decide they have to learn this. They're gonna be a year or 2 behind. But, you know, but that's, like, not a great outcome for people. The optimistic case, if you still don't learn it, you're working at a big company that's maybe slow to adopt. That company will face some pressure in the marketplace as other companies are gonna start using AI, are going to get ahead of them. But at that company, you're still doing okay. But in the long term, you're probably gonna need to switch companies because that company you're at that maybe is number 1 or 2 in the market is no longer the best. Exceptions to this are probably companies that have, like, an oligopoly in the space or something. Like, if you work at a railroad company, like, that company's gonna probably be fine for a while, but you and your role are gonna be at risk because 'cause they're gonna start using AI for everything.
I think we've really dived into like the importance of this course. But
Yeah.
if anyone who's really listening, who's thinking about doing this course or taking this really seriously, what's the next best step for them to take?
To go to masterclass.com/executive, apply for the program. It's exclusive, it is hard to get into. But it's very affordable. I mean, that was part of doing this. It's $2,500 a year, which is, 1% of what it costs usually, or, of a top master's degree. So, but that's still an investment. Apply for it. And part of what comes with that exclusivity is not only it's access to these instructors, access to these employers, but also a group of other students that are incredible. I mean, I've been shocked at the level of people that are applying. Like, these people have some amazing jobs, done amazing things. So the cohort you're going to get is going to be awesome.
That's amazing. I think that this course seems incredible what you guys are building. When you actually look ahead, David, when you're looking into the future, what does the AI native executive actually look like?
It's a good question. I mean, their organization in terms of people will be smaller than it is now. So if you have 100 people on your team now, I think that people-wise will be cut at least in half, but you're gonna have 1,000 agents, if not more, if not even tens of thousands of agents. And the management skills you're going to have to learn and to teach your team is no longer just how to manage a human team, but how to manage a human and an AI team. And those are going to have all different specs. One of the classes we have in the MasterClass Executive we're building is how to manage AI teams, because you have to do the same process of feedback, of notes, of who to fire, who to hire. And so it's a whole new craft of business that you have to learn.
Amazing. Honestly, David, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on today to the podcast. I think the big takeaway here is pretty simple. I think that AI isn't optional anymore, especially if you're leading. What we'll do is we'll link Masterclass Executive below for anybody who's watching and anywhere that we post clips, anything like that, and anybody, most importantly, who wants to get ahead of the curve. David, thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Thanks, Jacob.